Brown says, get that India. Big boy.
Call an ambulance! Maybe call a priest! Oh, what a shot! What a shot! Campbell Killer!
There's been plenty of excitement and interest around Para League's recent announcement about Parramatta Live, which involves the planning for a complete transformation of the club and its precinct. Para Leagues is the home of the Eels, and we're very pleased to be able to talk with the president of the club, Greg Monaghan. Greg, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks very much, Craig and John. It's great to be here and really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to all your listeners.
Greg, we're very keen to dive into the details about Parramatta Live and also to talk some footy. But first, the club's AGM is fast approaching. It's on Tuesday, the 25th of February. And there are some important special resolutions that you'd like members to support. So we'd like to quickly go over these. Firstly, there's the club patron resolution, which is already proving to be very popular.
Indeed. How wonderful is it to have someone like Peter Wynn that's keen to be a patron of the club. Peter, of course, being a past premiership player, an ambassador of the Eels, a life member of the Eels, a perpetual member of the club, man about town, successful Parramatta businessman. Boy, what more could you want?
The list goes on, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, yeah. Out of courtesy, I rang several of the past icons of the club, Peter Sterling and so on. So Peter said, gee, what a great choice, perfect choice. Steve Ellis said, good choice, he's a good man. Michael Cronin said, fantastic choice, he's the perfect man for the job. On and on, so he's very popular. It's the first time, Craig, I've ever read any social media where they're saying, Peter Wynn, where do I vote?
Yeah. Yes. And look, that's good because if, we want people to vote in AGMs and, when we've got people pretty keen to get in there and vote for Peter Wynn, hopefully that means a lot of people are going to vote in the AGM. But there are other special resolutions. So can I ask you to go through those one at a time, starting with Resolution 1 and what it basically means?
Yeah, so thanks, Craig. So Resolution 1 is some basic housekeeping changes really in relation to the Constitution. The Constitution is now 5 years old. It was the new Constitution that was brought in after the government administrator had been put in place to put a break between the old faction fighting and the new world. And it's worked pretty well, but there are some clauses that are out of date and that have changed. One is about the first board. So there's no first board anymore, so to speak. All the directors are elected by members and they always will be in the future. So that bit about a first board needs to go out. The government's changed the old 5 kilometre rule. There's no more 5 kilometre rule, so we've cancelled that in the Constitution. There's a bit of red tape that we're removing around club amalgamations for new members of the club, and there's some minor formatting and basic legal changes which don't mean much apart from tidying things up. So it's a pretty straightforward resolution. I'm sure it's be uncontroversial, and I hope everyone will vote in favour of that.
Yeah, especially as you say, it's really just a tidy up resolution. Resolution 2.
Resolution 2. So Resolution 2 is about what the eligibility criteria should be to be a director of our great club. We're a big club. Between the Eels and the licensed clubs, we're a $150 million business. So we need to have directors who are high quality directors. If you are a bankrupt or if you have a criminal record, you can't be a director. This constitutional change says that if the relevant government authorities have found a person to be not fit and proper to be a director of a licensed club, then they shouldn't be a director of our club. And it's quite as simple as that. That's a past, present and future change so that it protects against the past, but more importantly, it protects against the future. So we think also that's a very uncontroversial change. It's just common sense, really. We've got to have high-quality directors.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to Special Resolution 3.
Special Resolution 3, I think everyone will remember the recent extraordinary general meeting where 200 or so members were able to call a general meeting, which cost the club an absolute fortune to run, and ultimately it failed because it didn't have popular support. This change aligns us with the national regulations, the Australian Corporations Act, so that 5% of our voting members will be required to call a meeting, not 200. We're a big club. We've got 65,000 members, over 40,000 voting members. So it needs to be that's a change that means that if we are calling an EGM, an Extraordinary General Meeting, it will have a serious chance of success by having a reasonable base of support.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Special Resolution 4.
And Special Resolution 4, another item that's really come to everybody's attention, I think, is the way Australian law works. If a member of a club writes to the club and asks for a copy of the member's database with their name, address, contact details, email, telephone and so on, we have no choice as a club but to give it to them. But we're not allowed to tell, we haven't been allowed to tell the members who's got the information and why they've been given it. So this constitutional change, it doesn't stop someone asking for the database, but it does mean we can tell our members exactly what's happening. And that's a pretty important statement, I think.
Now, one of the things we probably need to point out as well is that with these special resolutions, it's not just if the majority of people vote for it that it gets across the line. It actually needs a higher percentage, doesn't it?
Yes, you're quite right there, Craig. It requires 75% of members voting to pass. So that's a pretty high bar, and it's very important people do come out and support that and make sure that we vote because, it is a high bar, 75%.
And it is a suite of very common sense resolutions as you've laid out, so hopefully members will vote in accordance. The other side of it, of course, is that this is also the election for club directors. Now, we're not going to go into any specifics about the candidates, but do you have a message for members about voting in the actual election itself?
Well, I think we've benefited very much from having a stable base over the last 5 to 8 years. We haven't had the faction fighting that we had before. One of the keys to that has been that the new constitution means that people don't have to come on a Sunday morning or whenever to vote in person. You can vote now by mail, online, at any time. And so our message is please go out and vote. We've had votes of 3,000 plus members in recent years using this system. It's very easy, it's a good system, and we'd encourage every member to come out and vote. And that way I think the member's voice really will be heard.
Yeah, that is important because the more people that vote, as you say, the more it's representative of the wishes of members.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we now move on to Parramatta Live, Greg, which is really, really exciting. And no doubt it's exciting for the Parramatta Leagues Club to be standing on the threshold of making the club, the precinct, even the city of Parramatta itself, truly, a genuine destination point, not just for Greater Western Sydney, but, for Sydney itself. Why has this come about? Why is this development about to happen?
Well, you're right, it's very exciting, and our directors and our members, everyone we've told about this is so excited about the future for the club. When you think about it, the first floor of this building that we're in is virtually 70 years old now. It's still there, but it's not going to survive the next 50 years. And we've got a lot of change happening around North Parramatta precinct. There's a lot of population growth. There's going to be more with a lot of high-rise. There's going to be a lot of tourism in the historical areas of the female factory. There's Parramatta Park. There's so much happening around our district. The environment over the next few years is going to really develop. So we've already got 65,000 members of the Leagues Club, 35,000 nearly of Eels members. We're going to have more, and we need to be able to provide for more in the future. So we need to rebuild the club. We need to provide facilities for people who live in the area and who visit the area. We need to activate the site, not just on game day. That'll be very important. We're going to have the best game day experience that you could have. But on other days, there's going to be opportunities and reasons to come and visit our club and our environment.
So let's talk about some of the features of the vision for this project, because the club is, as you sort of alluded to, looking at creating something that's truly special, not just for the members of PLC and the Eels, but for the wider Parramatta community. Firstly, you mentioned the foundations of the old club, but a new clubhouse will be built. But how would that be achieved with regard to the old clubhouse, the existing Leagues Club?
It's a great question, because we're not going to shut down and build a new club and not have facilities for members for the next few years. We're going to build the new club on the site right opposite the club, beside the multi-storey car park. So it'll be being built, but the services of the existing club are going to continue right through that period. And it won't be until we've got a brand new club operating and ready to go that we transfer over to the new club. So it's very important to us as a business to keep going, but in terms of providing services to members, we're not going to have a period where we're not operating. Most important.
Yeah, that is important, because there's been, the odd club here and there that have shut down as they've rebuilt, and you can imagine the impact of, not just on services to members, but, the functioning of the club itself. Sport has always been important to an organisation like Paraleagues. The club owns the Eels. You contribute hundreds of thousands of dollars to Junior Rugby League and to other community sports groups. How will Parramatta Live bring both sports and entertainment together?
Look, it's a great question, and it's a tremendous opportunity for us. First of all, how proud we are to be Parramatta Leagues Club and to be supporting junior sport, mainly rugby league, but other sports as well around the Parramatta area. Nearly $500,000 of funding goes into junior league, and over that for other sports. So it's a core part of who we are and what we are. We'll always be Parramatta Leagues. And in our precinct, we're going to be supporting the Eels when they're at CommBank Stadium with bigger and better events and support around this area. When others are in town, whether it's the Wanderers or we've got visiting rugby league teams, we're going to be providing facilities for them. On the other days of the week, we're going to have a gym, we're going to have esports, we're going to have an auditorium where we can hold functions for people. Parramatta Live, now I just want to couch this in there's a long way between a vision and reality.
Yes.
So where we aim to put the live theatre, which will have live sports, big screens, live entertainment, is on a site between the existing club and CommBank Stadium. That's a site that we're currently negotiating with the government to obtain. So we haven't got that site nailed yet. We hope to, and that's where we'll be providing massive live sport support by way of big screens and live events. So we'll be bringing a lot of opportunity for people to see sports and other entertainment too. There'll be music there. We'll have an auditorium again. There'll be all sorts of entertainment that we'll bring to this precinct.
And I think people who are regular visitors or have come to CommBank Stadium a number of times would be familiar with that space out the front of the stadium, and I'm sure everyone would welcome that space being used as well. So that looks like a great opportunity there.
Exactly. We're pretty lucky that our past administrations going back in the day, particularly under Dennis Fitzgerald and Alan Overton, were able to secure land around the club. So that area beside the multi-storey car park, we've got a 75-year remaining on our lease. We own the car park on the Northcott side of the club. So we've got opportunities to build on those places. And if we can get access to that site between us and CommBank, it's really going to give us the opportunity to create something special.
It really rounds out the precinct, doesn't it? So it'd be really, really big for the club to get it. Now, one of the continual themes of our recent line of questioning has been the community. And reading through the media on this project, there are plans to incorporate a youth hub and gathering spaces. Can you talk to us through the concept and importance of those inclusions for the precinct?
Very much. Our responsibility to the Parramatta community includes looking after our youth and includes providing facilities for community to be part of this great area. So we intend to have meeting rooms, we'll have a gymnasium, we'll have facilities for youth to come and participate in sports and other activities. And we'll be providing those. Our aim is to provide those free of charge to those communities. It's a very expensive part of the build. It'll be in stage 2. I know we're going to talk about the stages later on, but it'll be part of stage 2. But that's going to be a crucial part of the development for the community at large.
And theoretically, between that hub and then what's offered at CommBank as well, it'd be one of the premier sort of hangout or social spaces for youths across not just Parramatta, but perhaps Sydney.
Absolutely. You know, the thinking that's gone into this precinct is based on some great examples around the world. You know, the American stadiums and the way they activate the areas outside their stadiums. There's Brisbane Live. There are places around the world which have done this and done it so well. Parramatta City Council, I can tell you, is very excited about our development because they see it as our contribution to the global city. They have a global city plan to make us a global city by 2050, and they see this as an absolutely crucial part of that because it will be best practice around the world.
Now, a hotel is also featured, and it's featured in previous planning. What will be the benefits of including a hotel in the precinct?
The hotel is a bit smaller than the hotel plans of the past, and there's a lot more gone into it in terms of development of the thinking and the planning. It'll be about 150 rooms. It will provide facilities for people who come to conferencing in CommBank Stadium. It'll provide facilities for people who come to watch the Eels and the visiting teams in town to stay over. It'll provide facilities for sporting teams who are playing at CommBank Stadium or training to come and stay over. Tourism is such an important part of the district that we're in. We've got all that historical area to the north of us, the female factory and the old Cumberland Hospital. That's a major tourism destination. It's about to achieve World Heritage listing. It'll provide somewhere for them to stay. The North Parramatta precinct, the facilities that go into that hotel will provide areas for people to visit and to stay over. And of course, when they're staying in the hotel, they'll probably use our restaurants and our club and so on as well. So it'll certainly add value to the clubs. It's a pretty important part of the plan because there's nothing like that in North Parramatta. There is in the centre of Parramatta, but in North Parramatta, where all these people are, and when the tourism boom really hits this area, there's nothing here for them yet apart from the club as it is. We've got to expand our facilities and provide accommodation as part of that.
And I suppose this also ties into the idea of the hotel and people enjoying the eating facilities, but the project appears to incorporate an extension of Parramatta's famous Eat Street. How will that work alongside the club and its dining offerings?
Yes, we expect that there'll be 10 to 12 ground floor restaurants of different types. The Leagues Club doesn't intend to run them all. We intend to bring in specialists, bringing in different types of food experiences for people. And you'll be able to walk from Parramatta North right through the centre of the club and the hotel along an open walkway area. You'll have fountains and greenery and all that sort of stuff. On each side, you'll have restaurants to choose from. It will bring people, even when it's not game day, it'll bring people here to our Eat Street. It'll provide those meal and beverage opportunities for the tourists and for other people here on game days. We think it's going to be very exciting and nothing like it in the north part of Parramatta.
From a purely game day perspective, it sounds awesome just having that variety of food available.
You can just imagine it being full every night of the week when the games are on.
It'll almost be like a home game experience. If you've got 12 different restaurants, it lines up perfectly for the home games in the season. You sort of every round you got a different culinary option to try across the course of a season.
Yeah, you're planning out the season and playing for a different restaurant each time. Look, to wrap up Parramatta Live, there's no shortage of construction that's going to be involved in this. It's obviously going to have to proceed in stages. Can you talk us through the stages, the timelines, and where the project's at right now, and also whether members can get involved or how they can get more details?
Yes. So stage one is the new clubhouse and auditorium and so on, which will be built beside the multi-storey car park. We're at the stage with that where we're working hard on the development approval, the DA. It's a very complex DA. There are about 50 different skill sets of contractors that are needed to put that together. And we aim to have the DA finished by mid this year, mid-2025. In the second half of this year, we hope to be calling for tenders, and then in 2026 we hope to start building. It'll probably take 2 years to build, and so we hope to be in the new clubhouse by 2028. There's a lot of things that can happen in this precinct. Everybody knows it's a heritage precinct. There's a lot of Aboriginal artefacts and things like that that will need to be dealt with. So there are things that need to be overcome, but that's our plan, to have the new club in operation by 2028.
Very exciting timeline. Now let's switch gears and talk some football, which I know for a fact that it's something you're passionate about. We're actually having a great chat before we started recording about the impending return of the National Youth Competition. Some press about that came out today, so having a good chat with Greg there. But Paraleagues is one of the organisations providing funding to the construction of the Centre of Excellence out of Kellyville. We talk about timelines. That timeline's right upon us now. It must be exciting to see that project near completion.
Absolutely. It's so exciting for the football club, for the Leagues club, and for all the fans and the players. I mean, it's going to be state of the art. I've done a couple of tours of that during the construction process, and I really think that we're going to have the best rugby league facility in the world. What an attraction for us to keep our players and encourage our players and develop our young players through to NRL level. Not only that, as a community facility, all the pathways and the other community groups that will be using that Centre of Excellence and using the fields, what an asset to the greater Parramatta district. Very exciting. It's been a long haul. The football club has done a fabulous job working with all the stakeholders to get that done. And with the Leagues Club support, we've underwritten a lot of the funding and provided some funding and support. So very exciting for the whole organisation and all our very big fan base to see that happening.
Craig's been able to document a fair chunk of the journey for the infrastructure on TCT, and just from that perspective, it's been fascinating to see, from a skeleton to getting the flesh growing out of the actual infrastructure, and the fact that it's just around the corner now. It really sets itself up to be a jewel of the West for the Parramatta Eels. Yeah,
the big impact it has on people who haven't been there for a while and might come up and have a look at training, or there might be at Eels HQ for some reason and they're seeing it in person for the first time. Just the impact, the size of it, besides how great the facilities are, just the size of the project, because we're talking 5 football fields up there at Kellyville, which, no one has that sort of space in the NRL, let alone, Australian sport. So it is quite an amazing facility.
Definitely got the wow factor, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I've done a little bit of a sneaky tour of Penrith a number of years ago, and I went undercover, pretending to be a Panthers supporter.
You spoke highly back then. But
I spoke highly about the Penrith facility. The Parramatta facility is in a different universe to the Penrith facility, and given how impressed I was with the Panthers facility, it says quite a bit. Now let's switch to the full supporter mode, Greg, because that's been the basis of many of our discussions on match days and at training, and as John said, his chat that he was having with you about the changes coming ahead with the National Youth Competition. Got to ask you, when did your passion for the Eels begin?
Well, all my adult life, but I've got a confession to make, Craig. I've never said this publicly before. But when I was 5 years old and growing up at Toongabbie, and St George couldn't lose a game, I had to follow the Red V. But I grew up. We moved to North Parramatta, and here I was going to Burnside Public School and the school of Richie Benno, and then going to Cumberland High School. I played footy with Terry Wiki in Year 8 and all those Dundas Valley Rugby Union boys, the Price brothers and things like that. I played footy with Don Price in first grade there at Cumberland High School. And it was unavoidable. We could walk from our house in Burnside there at North Parramatta down to Cumberland Oval to watch the games, and it was unavoidable. I had to be a Parramatta supporter, and I have been ever since.
That's a really interesting point, though, because we talk about the mystique that the current Penrith Panthers have, the Eels obviously of the 80s. I can't even imagine what it would have been like for the Red V back in that era. Like, you think about like the hushed tones that we speak about the other teams, but the invincible Red V, you can understand why a young kid would have been on board for him.
Yeah, well, I was talking to some people the other day, and they were talking about the Panthers, and going 4 in a row, and it's just unprecedented. To say, well, look, it's unprecedented in the NRL era, but the Dragons.
And look, it's a shameful part of my past, Craig, but I've thrown it off. I've got that monkey off my back now. I've confessed it publicly, and I've moved on.
It does springboard us into a fantastic little shot of redemption, because we will ask you about your greatest memory or favourite moment as a supporter.
Well, look, I no doubt that the greatest memory I have is of Brett Kenny throwing that dummy in the 81 grand final.
Iconic.
And racing down that left touch line to score the try that sealed that victory. I can't go past that as my favourite memory. I've got so many memories though of watching different games, going back to the Thornette days and the other things that used to happen back at the good old Cumberland Oval, sitting up on the Nolla stand.
Yes. But you had to get in there early, Greg, to get that spot in that Nolla stand. I had to have the old season tickets back in the day, the old cardboard ones that would have you'd get to go through the gate 10 minutes before everyone else, and they'd do a little hole punch in there in the ticket. You'd race around, put the blankets down for the entire family, and it would look like there was no one in the stand because there was only, maybe 20 people there. It was basically one person in each row of seats with blankets stretching right across.
Well, I was never wealthy enough to be able to afford a seat up there. I used to sit on the brick wall beside the stairs.
Oh, yes.
So it was about 30 metres from where I was sitting down to the tarmac down below, but you'd never be able to do it now, but that's what we did then.
That Kenny dummy truly is a moment frozen in time, though, isn't it? My father was an Italian immigrant, and for him, football, the conventional round ball football, was everything. But he always speaks to me as a Parramatta now convert. That is his moment as a fan as well of rugby league. The Kenny dummy and try is just, and he also speaks about the grand final they lost and the effort that Kenny made then as well. But isn't it amazing?
2 disallowed. No, that's the 86.
Just the universal language that always speaks to whether you're a dyed in the wall rugby league fan or someone that converted from Europe. So really, really cool.
Oh, I was at the top of the hill on that day at the SCG, just in those little covered areas that used to exist on the hill. So we were watching it end on as he was streaking away, and whereas when Graham Atkins scored the try to put us in front, it felt like the whole thing was happening in slow motion. And I was waiting for someone to come across and tackle him and stop the try from being scored, because I'd sat through the 76 and 77 games there.
You were waiting for the heartbreak.
I was waiting for the heartbreak to happen. So as Brett Kenny was streaking away, it was like this, even though I was confident we had the game by that stage, it was just like this surge of relief.
Wasn't it?
Oh, just, you knew then it was finally ours. And I would imagine that when the time comes very soon, and maybe it's Mitch Moses streaking away downfield, planting the ball between the posts or whatever at the end of a grand final, people are going to feel similarly, because, it's been so long between drinks. And I'm sure all the emotions are going to be the same. The emotions were there that night when we qualified for the grand final back in 2022. Here at the club was absolutely insane, and
sharing that moment with Steve Ella was just surreal, wasn't it? He couldn't believe what was happening at the club, and he was just soaking it up and enjoying it.
The amazing thing, Greg, about Steve that night was how calm and composed he was. Because, we were struggling, we were behind, and I was going over to him and saying, "What do you think?" And he's like, we got it, don't worry. And at that point, I just didn't see it, but he saw it, and so that when it was over, he was like, "I told you, don't worry, we've got this." So, Yeah, it was quite the evening, and I can only imagine what Parramatta Leagues Club will be like. I don't say if we win; I'm saying when we win again. So just on that, are we allowed to ask you to single out your favourite player of all time, Greg?
Well, I don't think I can single out one, but look, there are so many. I mean, I'm sad Gutho's gone over the red V, but Gutho and Mitchell are just two standouts from the current era. And then, of course, you're going back through Nathan Hindmarsh and all those, Brett Kenny and Peter Sterling and Mick Cronin and those guys from the premiership years. So they're all all-time favourites. I'm actually reading at the moment the biography of Dick Thornett, and one of the games that I came down to here at Cumberland Oval, I remember very well. It's etched in my memory. Moby Dick and Ronnie Lynch, I just loved those two players back in the day. And there was one day down here we were playing Manly and we won 11-7, if I remember correctly. And Arch Brown was our goal kicker, and he'd missed a few, and Dick got sick of that, so he decided he was going to drop kick.
Yeah.
Drop kicked the field goals, the penalty goals. So he drop kicked 3 penalty goals, and we won the game. And I never forget the sight of him and Dick and Ronnie Lynch charging around the field. So they're two of my favourites from back then.
Good shout.
That game was so famous. I actually wasn't at that game. I was a little bit young, although I was going to Cumberland with the family. We weren't there that day, but it was talked about at school.
Yeah.
Dick Thornett drop kicking those goals.
The whoomp of his boot on that old leather ball.
Yeah, completely different ball back in
echoed
the day.
around the ground, and he was kicking it for 40 metres. That's my memory, but it's a long time ago.
Well, honestly, with the old leather ball, anything from outside 20 is impressive.
But what an athlete! A triple international.
Yep.
Water polo, rugby union, rugby league, and everywhere he went, he was just world's best.
All right, now you've been busy with the preseason, mate, updating all our fans on TCT. But Greg, you've also caught some of the preseason, and you've run your eye over the roster, and you've gotten to know Jason Riles and the new coaching staff. What excites you or encourages you the most ahead of the 2025 preseason in round one? Well, preseason
there's
trials?
so much unknown. We know they're going to play a different style. We know they're trimmed down. They worked on their speed and their mobility and their agility, their skills. They're working on their skills at a level that's a different process. And we've got more speed there. We've got Lomax and we've got the Fox on the other wing. I can't wait to see Mitchell Moses and Dylan Brown working with those two guys when they get some good ball. Kicking to Lomax on one side and kicking to Fox on the other. And I just think it's going to be so exciting and so different from the way we've played in the past. So I can't wait to see how it all works out.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the great unknown, John, is we've seen that the preparations are different. We know that the players look different. We know that there are significant new arrivals at the club, but we haven't played a game yet. And so I don't know, it's that level of anticipation about the unknown. I'm confident we're going to improve, absolutely confident we're going to improve. How much we improve or how long it takes to, work towards our best football, I guess that is, that's the big question. Greg, you spoke fondly about Cumberland Oval.
Yes.
Just a moment ago. I too have fond memories of Cumberland Oval, but of course we've had a couple of transformations to that hallowed ground since then, Parramatta Stadium, which did such a fine job for a long period of time, and now the magnificent Combank Stadium. And other teams might use that ground from time to time, but we know it's Parramatta's ground and Parramatta's ground only. Why is it the best footy ground in Australia?
Well, it is paradise, isn't it? It is paradise. It is. I mean, you and I have been to a lot of grounds around Sydney and interstate and so on. It is the best viewing experience that you could have. You're so close to the ground. The acoustics are great. The lighting, the signage, the playing surface, it's magnificent. And I think it's by far the best that I've been to. I've been to some of the newer grounds, over in the eastern suburbs and things like that. But You're so much closer to the game here and so much more part of it. The facilities are great. The entry and exit's great for spectators. But the experience of being able to watch that game, you've got the big screens there that you can see the replays and things like that. It's brilliant. So I give it number one.
Some of the big game atmosphere that can be generated there, it's really second to none. I've been to countless grand finals now and to big venues, and I don't think there's anything that compares to the noise that's generated by the crowd inside that ground. It's like there's a microphone that's put beside every spectator that's there. Once when the game builds that level of excitement and the roar starts, I will never forget the roar of Mitch Moses racing
Easter
away
Monday.
for that try.
Yeah.
In the very first game there,
playing the Broncos in the Week 1 finals as well. For the big score. Yeah. The crowd was electric. Look, you're going to have, I think, interstate preferences too, because if you're in Victoria and in Queensland, you're going to have a predilection to your own stadium there. But I do think that even with the rebuild of SFS, that CommBank is in that sort of holy trinity of Suncorp, Amy, and then itself as almost like perfectly built for football, for rugby league football venues, and it really reflects in the game day experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, on the back of that, and sort of why CommBank is such a great game day experience, what is it about the Blue and Gold army of supporters that sets them apart from other fan bases?
Oh, it's the passion, isn't it? Honestly,
it can be a little unhinged sometimes, but the passion is second to none.
When you think, we've got the 65,000 Leagues Club and the nearly 35,000 Eels members, but that's only the start of it, isn't it? We were just talking before we started the recording about the number of supporters in Brisbane and Queensland and around Australia. They're everywhere. I think it's well known we have. I think it's the biggest following of any rugby league team. It's enormous, and I think wherever you go, you find you've only got to put your Parramatta Eels cap on or your supporter shirt on, and all of a sudden there are people coming out of the woodwork to talk to you about Parramatta and how we're going to go this year, and the excitement and the passion. I think it's the passion. We love it.
Yeah, it's the fact that we consistently can get the Parachant going up at Seabus and at Suncorp, regardless of how the team has been travelling, but especially if they're doing well, I think it reflects on the strength of that interstate membership. And the fan base, like I said, we can be a little bit unhinged at times, myself included, but that certainly comes from a place of deep passion. And the Blue and Gold Army, they are very keen for their Eels and would love to see him get off to a great start on the Jason Riles for sure.
Loyalty.
Yeah.
Through
what this club has been through at the darkest times to where they are now. Certainly, I always give the fan base a big pat in the back.
Absolutely. Greg, Paraleagues is the home of the Eels. Match days are always special. What can we look forward to at Parramatta Leagues in 2025?
Well, on game days, I think you'll still have the club welcoming all its members, but we'll have activations outside. We'll have food trucks. We'll have entertainment and so on, and it'll be a great event for people to come to. It is anyway from the football point of view, but we'll aim to make it a great place for families to come before the game and after the game, and make it the really experience that surrounds the game of football. It's a very exciting place to be around Parramatta Leagues Club and around CommBank Stadium on game day, isn't it? There's people milling around, everyone's excited, and there will be plenty of things for them to do. There'll be music, there'll be, as I say, food trucks and games and activations for people to enjoy. So, come on down, it'll be great.
You literally start to feel the atmosphere the moment that you hit the Leagues Club.
Yeah.
As you say,
that buzz, that throng of humanity.
That's it. That was the word that I was looking for, the buzz. When you walk into a ground on match days, you get a buzz. Well, you hear the din, the buzz of people. That happens around the club itself.
Yep.
The colour, and that's all there. You've got the music, the entertainment, as you say, the food trucks, and you're at the football the moment that you arrive at the Leagues Club. So I'm really looking forward to another great season being here, Greg.
And the other thing for all your listeners is, of course, you'll have pre-match and post-match interviews here in the clubhouse. So we look forward to that as well.
Yeah, and round 2, Sunday against the West Tigers, is when we'll be here for that game day experience and the pre- and post-game events. But Greg, thank you for joining us today. We always are hugely appreciative of our guests taking times out of their busy schedule, but especially for you, and given that this is Parramatta Leagues and everything that goes into it with the election coming up. And on that note, one last reminder for members of PLC, of Paraleagues, to execute your constitutional right and vote. Make sure you vote in those special resolutions. Make sure you vote for your new directors, incumbents or otherwise. And I'll leave over to you for the last word, mate, about how the Parramatta Eels are going to go this year.
Oh, the Parramatta Eels are going to go very, very well. I'm not going to make any predictions. That's fraught, isn't it? But,
It is. It's perilous.
I can't wait for the season to start, and I think we're going to be really surprised by how well they go. So, looking forward to it, and looking forward to all our members coming out and voting in the elections and the special resolutions. That's the one message there. Please vote.
Yes, well said, mate.
Thanks, Greg. And as I always say, John, go you mighty Eels.